All right, let's go out to a Heisman Trophy winner's crib right here in the Los Angeles area. Reggie Bush joining us from his crib. And you got wine bottles as pacifiers at your crib? I mean, you coming to us from your wine cellar, Reggie?
It's perfect timing.
You see these guys? Yeah, Marcellus is hanging out in the pool, and Reggie's hanging out in a wine cellar. All right, let's move to the smartest way to win, brought to you by ZipRecruiter. And there have been some teams expressing concern privately about all the attention surrounding Tua Tagovailoa, the Alabama quarterback, seen as one of the top 2 or 3 quarterback prospects in this draft. Some people have him as the best. But there are some teams concerned, is there too much attention around Tua? It almost sounds like people are saying he's got a little Tebow-esque quality, and that makes some teams concerned. And so, Marcellus, I'm going to ask you, are teams being leery of Tua's attention-seeking in the media? Is that the smartest way to win?
Oh, man. I don't think that Tua's doing too much, and I don't believe this article and its sincerity towards Tua. I don't think it's really portraying him in the right way, in the right light. One is a Miami article. I think they're just trying to keep everybody distant from Tua by saying, oh, here's the bad things. You know, we always see this in the draft process, something that is not flattering about a prospect, but in reality, behind the scenes, it's working to the tune of them getting that prospect and putting out bad information about him. But if you know Tua, man, look, there's 2 things to it. One, he's a free spirit. He comes from a different place. He's from Hawaii, man. Look, over there, they're not so socialized and caught up and jaded like us, and maybe don't understand exactly the sociology that comes with playing NFL football and how to handle interviews. We saw him talking about he wanted to be the Cowboys' backup. I don't think that was from a bad place. I think that was just a guy who was like, hey, I grew up a Cowboys fan. So a little green if you want to go there. But also, this is a prospect who had the best career of all the top prospects, but was starting to get talked about in a negative light because of the injuries. So in order to restore order and get him back to where he belonged, he had to talk his way into that because he couldn't show it on the field necessarily. So he was motivated to talk a little as well.
Yeah, Marcellus, I agree with you. I think because of the crazy times that we're in right now, because of this coronavirus, you know, there's a different way that some guys may have to showcase themselves. And I think for Tua, I think he's doing a great job because, like you said, we can't see him on the football field as much right now because of the state of where our country is in right now. But I think from people hearing him talk about his injury, hearing him say that he feels great, seeing some snippets of videos here and there, I think that's all good stuff because, you know, Tua, in my opinion, a healthy Tua is just as good or better than a healthy Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I think what Tua is suffering from is he is the most interesting man in the NFL draft. His story is incredible. He plays at the program that's the most historic probably in college football, Alabama. He plays for Nick Saban. The Jalen Hurts Tua quarterback drama in Alabama elevated his profile. And now he's coming off this injury, and there's all this wonder and intrigue. Like, hey, he was the #1 quarterback before this injury. Will he be able to be the same guy after the injury? And so I think what some people are reacting to is like, damn, there's more stories being written about Tua than Joe Burrow, who won the Heisman Trophy and allegedly he's going to be the #1 pick. Justin Herbert, the quarterback out of Oregon. There's more conversation about Tua than him, who's got the big body and the whole thing, Jordan Love. Tua's the quarterback we're talking about the most, and some people are blaming Tua for that. I just think the narrative on Tua is so fascinating, it forces us to talk about him. And Tua isn't shy about conversing with the media, and he's probably a little too authentic and transparent, and I'm referring to his comments about wanting to be a Cowboys player. Marcellus?
I agree with you, man. He's more storied. He's more famous. And he had a better body of work. So, of course, if you're thinking about looking to interview a prospect, especially the one who had his career cut short because of injuries, as great as Tua is, there could have been more to the Tua story. Yeah, that's intriguing for any network to bring him in. And I'm not taking any shots at Joe Burrow, but if you look at his entire career, you probably say that was a one-year wonder and you're hoping to get more of that. But that's not as intriguing a story as Tua, especially from someone who's not even from the mainland as well. So you have his backstory on top of what you saw on the football field, on top of the program he was in, on top of the prospects going forward. So it's a lot to Tua, and I don't think he's doing anything negative to fuel that fire.
Reggie, you dealt with as much hype as anybody coming out of college football.
Yeah, and I think for Tua, I think, Marcellus, you made some great points because there is that element of the unknown because we didn't get to see him finish out his last couple games as a college quarterback. And so there's that element of, man, I wish we could have seen Tua play in the playoffs because we knew if he was healthy, Alabama would have been in the playoffs, and see him compete head-to-head against Joe Burrow and those LSU Tigers. So people are still very excited about Tua, which they should be, because he has the quickest release also out of any of these quarterbacks that are coming out of the draft, and a quick release quickly translates to the NFL.
All right, let's move to Jadeveon Clowney, who still hasn't signed a free agent contract this offseason. It's a little bit surprising. He wanted out of Houston. He goes to Seattle, performs relatively well, but the reports are that Jadeveon wanted $20 million a year on average in his new contract. No one seems to want to meet that demand. Now there's a report that he has lowered his price tag to $17 or $18 million. Marcellus, the question here is, has he lowered it enough to lure somebody to go after it?
Oh, I think he's dropped it enough. But the problem is, since he's already publicly dropped it, since I know about this, you know about this, we all know, he's going to have to continue to drop it. It's going to turn into a swap meet. It's going to turn into a bidding war of who can get Jadeveon on the cheap. That's sad, man. This is really bad play by the agent, and I don't know who his agent is, but this should not be on public record, the decline, the loss of wages for whoever is going to get Jadeveon Clowney services, whether it's Seattle, whether it's Tennessee, or they keep dropping to get another team interested. We heard the Jets are even poking and kicking the tires around right now. It's a really sad state of affairs. As we know, in any negotiation, the first thing you don't want to do is set the number. Like, you want to go to any negotiation and you make the other person set the number. But now Jadeveon has to set his own number, and he has to set it lower than he wants to. I think this is just really a bad display of how the process works if you're not being properly guided.
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough for Jadeveon Clowney. At the $20 million range, I think maybe even possibly at the $17, $18 million range, I think it could still be tough for a team to want to offer him that, because at the end of the day, for defensive ends, one of the most important stats is that sack stat. And last year, Clowney only had 3 sacks. So that's not to say that he this year won't be much better. But if he does get $17, $18 million a year and he does not perform, then that team is going to be looking to move him, because that will then be 2 years in a row where he hasn't been able to produce from the sack range. And so I think it's going to be tough for him. I hope he gets paid that much money, because I love seeing players get what they think their value is. But I think it'll be tough for a team to still pay him even at $17, $18 million range.
Yeah, Jadeveon's in a tough spot. I can relate to what Jadeveon's going through. I've spent most of my life 2 a.m. hoping somebody's got beer goggles on and has lowered their standards to a level where they would even consider me. So Jadeveon's right now in that spot. It's a tough spot. It's a very tough spot. He may have to drop down to about $9 million. All right, thank you, Reggie. Yeah. Great job.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. And be sure to check out more of the best clips from Speak For Yourself, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.